So we're concluding our look at Percy Shelley with his lyrical drama Prometheus Unbound. It's called a lyrical drama, but it is a closet drama like all of the romantics dramas that I can think of at any rate, at least the English romantics. And so we left off last time with his defense of poetry, which for those of you who are in my class this morning, which is just two of you, the view that I think Shelley holds of poetry by this point is that it is progressive universal poetry. And that's his view of the arts in general. It tends towards, as we discussed this morning, a sort of Gnosticism, an idea that the poetry is a spiritual activity expressing the subject matter of true poetry, which is the human spirit, rather than being what traditionally would be fall under the title of poetry, namely poetics, words. It's more the spirit rather than the words. So there's a sort of Gnosticism that arises, and what is being depicted is the human spirit, which is best understood in relation to feelings and thoughts. And so it has an internal landscape that is being described. And so the closet drama or the lyrical drama reflects that depiction. So we don't have actors on a stage anymore representing people and characters. We have thought processes internalized. And that was reflected in Shelley's view on life, which we saw gets to the point where even he's questioning grammatical, the pronouns, which he says are just modifications of the one mind anyway, and he rejects the idea that there is any specific external realities that we tend to associate with these things. So he's really make it a pronounced shift. And the lecture I gave this morning on that general process, that the shift in the Enlightenment Romantic period is well reflected in Shelley. He's a very mature exponent of that. And this here, Prometheus Unbound, is a reflection of that as much as anything, I think. What should I say about this? Okay, first thing is that it's indicating its source, which is Aeschylus's Prometheus Bound. So Aeschylus is one of the three great Athenian tragedians, along with Euripides and Sophocles. We know Sophocles from Oedipus Rex, which we do in first year, but we tend not to do Aeschylus so much. The story is roughly speaking that Prometheus is one of the Titans, or the earth gods, who is at war with the sky gods, or the those that are found on Mount Olympus, the ones that we know as the Greek gods. Those aren't the only gods. There are gods from the earth, and there are gods from the sky, and the ones from the sky defeat the earth gods, and they are thrown into the underworld where they are punished, Prometheus being one of them. But there are a multiplicity of the earth gods, and all of them, including the sky gods, are there through an act of injustice, fundamentally, because remember, even Jupiter or Zeus, depending on what you describe him, a Roman or a Greek name, rebels against his father Saturn to get into his position, so there's a fundamental rebellion against authority from those that we give to the utmost authority, which is part of the cyclical downward spiral of injustice that the Greco-Roman pantheon reflects. So they don't have an idea that God, first of all, that there is one God, and also that God's character is fundamentally just. That will be a call from the philosophers like Plato to say that actually the order of things is based on justice. We have a clear understanding of justice, and if you portray the gods as not representing that justice, then you actually are misrepresenting the Godhead. And so there's a critique of religion from the Greek philosophers, interestingly. And we as Christians will agree with the critique. The gods cannot have injustice in their character, and yet the Greeks plainly portray them as having that. And so the Homer is actually, in many ways, corrupting the youth, you could even say. And that's why Plato wants him out of the Republic. The philosophers know better about ultimate reality. And we're probably going to be in agreement with them on that point. But Prometheus is a Titan who is being punished on a rock on Mount Tartarus, chained to a rock, and his liver is being eaten by day by a vulture, and then it regenerates itself. So it's eternal punishment. And what has he done? Well, Prometheus is a benefactor to mankind. He takes fire from the gods. He steals fire. And with that fire, of course, what do human beings do? Well, they forge all sorts of tools. And they can cook their meat. And so they're the foundation of civilization. They can create better utensils, better tools. They cook their food. The sort of foundations of a civilized structure, that it's healthier to cook your meat. You don't get the problems with bacteria and so forth. But of course, it's come through theft. And so there's this idea of transgression against the gods that actually in some ways may be to human benefit, that Shelley's pretty happy about. The transgressive act of upsetting the gods may actually be a moral action. And Prometheus is cast not as a villain, but rather as a hero for Shelley. And his suffering is unjust, and those that punish him are also unjust. So Shelley transforms the Titan Prometheus of Aeschylus's presentation, who is to some degree a bad character, or at least opposed by the good characters, and reframes it in terms of who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. The other thing about the Prometheus myth, and this comes in later Roman iterations, is that some myths, and Ovid is amongst them, portrays Prometheus as perhaps the creator of humanity. He's a demiurge figure. He fashions them out of clay. And that becomes really important in Gnostic theology, where there's a demiurge figure who's between the gods and man, and it's that demiurge figure who, in some iterations of Roman mythology, is actually the figure of Prometheus. So he may be, like, in this sense, the way God is portrayed in the Genesis account. He forms Adam out of the clay. Likewise, Prometheus may have done this. There's some iterations of that, and Mary Shelley makes use of both of those in her portrait of Frankenstein, or as she calls him, the modern Prometheus, and that's very interesting. So she pushes it in a different direction, and a more fruitful direction in some ways. It connects modern science and its attempt to use power over nature to create a new sense of, or power over human nature, and to some degrees, I think, critiques the whole power agenda of modern science, which resonates very strongly with people. But Shelley's not interested in that here, and I actually think this is less effective than Mary Shelley's portrait myself. But still, this is a course on romantic poetry, and in keeping with this, but he's going to portray the suffering of Prometheus as having almost a redemptive effect. And this is really interesting because Shelley's Prometheus almost has Christ-like qualities then, because he refuses to respond to unjust persecution with an evil response. He won't respond to curses with cursing. He won't take retribution. So the moral response of Prometheus is almost Christ-like in that respect. It's not redemptive, but still. So the preface, and we'll look at this, and then we'll go on through the 4 acts. Oh, it's going to take me a second here. It's a problem with using this. So note this. So this is why Shelley is worth reading. He is engaging with the critical tradition, with the great books, as it were. I don't agree. I think that it's problematic, the turn that is taken, but it is still engaging with the tradition. It's worthy of study. So what is this? The Greek tragic writers, in selecting as their subject any portion of their national history or mythology employed in their treatment of it, is certain arbitrary discretion. They by no means conceive themselves bound to adhere to the common interpretation, or to imitate in story as in title their rivals and predecessors. Such a system would have amounted to a resignation of those claims to preference over their competitors, which incited the composition. And there's all sorts of variations on the Agamemnon story as a result of this, right? So they take their story and then they repurpose it and reframe it as they see fit. And the story of many Greek myths gets recast by the tragedians, and different points are made with it. I've presumed to employ a similar license. So the Prometheus Unbound of Aeschylus presupposed the reconciliation of Jupiter with his victim as the price of the disclosure of the danger threatened to his empire by the consummation of his marriage with Thetis. Thetis, according to this view of the subject, was given in marriage to Peleus, and Prometheus, by the permission of Jupiter, delivered from his captivity by Hercules. I could have done that and just followed Aeschylus's narrative, but if I had done that, then I would have done more just restored the lost drama of Aeschylus, and he doesn't want to do that. That's not his purpose. He wants to cast it in a different way. He doesn't want to, and here's why. I don't want to reconcile the champion of mankind with his oppressor. In other words, the suffering ought not to result in reconciliation. So if you want to see this as an engagement with Christian theology in some way, which I don't think it is explicitly, but you don't want to see as the suffering of the Son appeasing the wrath of the Father. And he doesn't talk about it that way, but we can draw some sort of correlation there. He doesn't want to see a unity of purpose in there in any way, shape, or form. Christian theology will say exactly that the Father sends the Son to atone for the wrath of the Father of mankind's sin by assuming a human nature and bearing the sins of man upon himself, suffers on Good Friday, dies the death we deserved, and is raised to a life that we don't deserve, which he offers up to us freely if we have faith in the need for that atonement, and will gladly receive the life he offers to us. He's not interested in that reconciliation. He's not buying the postulates of Christian theology anyway, but more the ideas, the emotional. And remember I said that romantic poetics is now predicated on the emotional truth and the feeling. It's not about doctrine. It's more about the feelings. And the feelings are of anger on the one side and suffering and pain on the other. And how do you reconcile them? Well, for Shelley, it's wrong to justify anger in any way or appease anger. This is an internal lyrical drama. It's an emotional engagement. It's a therapeutic approach to truth. The Western world follows this path of thinking that therapy is the way to engage with human life, rather than seeing it at the level of truth and doctrine and the logos. It's more interested in the pathos then. I think it's a deeply problematic turn, but it is what it is at the moment. Psychology is regarded as the central discipline in university studies. Human feelings are regarded as central. But anyway, but the moral interest of the fable, which is so powerfully sustained by the sufferings and endurance of Prometheus, would be annihilated if we could conceive of him as unsaying his high language and quailing before his successful and perfidious adversary. The only imaginary being resembling in any degree Prometheus is Satan. Now note how he reads Milton's Paradise Lost. Satan suffers hugely. God, according to Shelley and according to Blake and according to all the romantics, it's Satan that's the hero because he suffers at the hands of a more potent adversary. It's a psychological reading of the account of Christian theology. assuming that, again, the feelings are of greater moment than the actual doctrine presupposes. So if you reject the idea that words reveal truth and think rather that feelings are the foundation for truth, then you're going to lean in the romantic direction. This is why it's important to have a good theology of the word. And as I say, this is not just a Christian postulate. The classical world would also have held to the same view of the power of human language. And in the lecture this morning, I talked about how contradictory the position of the Romantics is and how problematic it is in terms of a proper view of human language, because human language is one of the characteristics of human nature. It is what distinguishes us from the other animals. And it can't therefore come from the animals, as the Darwinist account would have it be. We did not originate, language does not originate in grunts and cries. We do have grunts and cries, but that's not the origin of all language. But the romantic view is that the feelings are the poetry. It's such an important shift, and it's so momentous, and it's so surprising that poets should hold a view that language is not really the subject of poetry, but the feelings are. That I think sometimes we say they don't really mean what they're saying, but they do really mean what they're saying. And you have to take them at their word on this. So the only imaginary being resembling in any degree is Satan, and Prometheus is, in my judgment, a more poetical character than Satan, because in addition to courage and majesty and firm and patient opposition to omnipotent force, he is susceptible of being described as exempt from the taints of ambition, revenge and desire for personal aggrandizement, which in the Hero of Paradise Lost interfere with the interest. Well, that's right, because Milton's Satan is presented as a tyrant. Doesn't really fit with the romantic desire to see everything as a psychological drama, because Milton's Satan is not a unambiguously good character. In fact, he's not a good character at all. But this is why he does it. So when we accuse Shelley of being in the satanic school, note that he's only doing it from the vantage point of the primacy of feeling and not really engaging with theology at all, per se. The character of Satan engenders in the mind a pernicious casuistry which leads us to weigh his faults with his wrongs and to excuse the former because the latter exceed all measure. He's more sinned against than sinning, so therefore we can forgive poor Satan. He doesn't have the power of the Almighty. But Prometheus is, as it were, the type of the highest perfection of moral and intellectual nature, impelled by the purest and truest motives to the best and noblest ends. Okay. Here are the dramatis personae, the chief actors in it, protagonists. We have Prometheus, we have Demogorgon, Jupiter, the Earth, the phantasm of Jupiter, Ocean, Apollo, Hercules, etc. Act 1. And remember, this is not meant for the stage. It's meant to describe certain emotions within the self. And it is sort of Platonic insofar as Plato, if you think about this is my final comment, in Plato's Republic, when he describes the Republic, what he's really describing is the right relation of the faculties within a person. Like the right relation between the reason, the thumos, or the chest, and the passions, the spirited element. Like, what is it within a human person that should be guiding us in life? Should it be our reason, or should it be our passions, or should it be the spirited element, that thing that feels injustice and acts accordingly? Which one should govern us? He says the poets shouldn't do it because they appeal to the passions. And the philosophers should because they appeal to the reason. But really, he says, I'm talking about the internal attributes of a human being. And it's a microcosm, macrocosm analogy. So the microcosm, which is the human being, is hard to describe as an internalized drama, which is what Shelley's doing. It's easier to see if we project it as, let's look at a city, the polis. Let's see what it's like in a city and imagine different groups within that. There's the guardians, there's the police, there's the commoners, etc. Let's look at it that way on the grand scale as actors, and then we'll draw inferences and apply them to how we ought to order our own lives. And the answer for Plato is we should be ruled by our reason rather than our passions, and therefore the philosophers should rule over us just like our minds should rule over our bodies. Because our minds are directed by the just, and they can see the just and the ideal of justice and not be motivated by instances of justice, which often might be corrupted instances of justice. Like the character of justice might in fact be unjust, like Athena is in the Odyssey. You know, she's trying to manipulate Odysseus into doing certain things. Lack of integrity there. Anyway, so he is, in a sense, moving in the Platonic direction, and some people see the influence of Plato on Shelley for this reason. And I think, you know, for good reason. So Prometheus, monarch of gods and demons, and all spirits but one. All spirits but one. Him. Who throng those bright and rolling worlds which thou and I alone of living things behold with sleepless eyes. Regard this earth made multitudinous with thy slaves, whom thou requitest for knee worship, prayer, and praise, and toil, and hecatombs of broken hearts, with fear and self-contempt and barren hope, whilst me, who am thy foe, eyeless in hate, hast thou made reign and triumph to thy scorn, or mine own misery and thy vain revenge. 3,000 years of sleep unsheltered hours, and moments divided by keen pangs till they seemed years, torture and solitude, scorn and despair. These are mine empire, more glorious far than that which thou surveyest from thine unenvied throne, O mighty God. Almighty, had I deigned to share the shame of thine ill tyranny, and hung not here nailed to this wall of eagle-baffling mountain, black, wintry, dead, unmeasured, without herb, insect, or beast, or shape, or sound of life. Ah me, alas, pain, pain ever, forever. No change, no pause, no hope, yet I endure. I ask the earth, have not the mountains felt? I ask yon heaven, the all-beholding sun, has it not seen? The sea, in storm or calm, heaven's ever-changing shadow spread below, have its deaf waves not heard my agony? Ah me, alas, pain, pain ever, forever. The crawling glaciers pierce me with the spears of their moon-freezing crystals. The bright chains eat with their burning cold into my bones. Heaven's winged hound, polluting from thy lips his beak in poison not his own, tears up my heart. And shapeless sights come wandering by, the ghastly people of the realm of dream, mocking me, and the earthquake fiends are charged to wrench the rivets from my quivering wounds when the rocks split and close again behind, while from their loud abysses howling throng the genii of the storm, urging the rage of whirlwind, and afflict me with keen hail. And yet to me welcome is day and night, whether one breaks the hoarfrost of the moon, of the morn, or starry, dim, and slow, the other climbs the leaden-colored east. For then they lead the wingless, crawling hours, one among whom, as some dark priest hails the reluctant victim, shall drag thee, cruel king, to kiss the blood from these pale feet, which then might trample thee if they disdained not such a prostrate slave. Disdain? Ah, no. I pity thee. Okay, so this is the key moment in the whole drama right here, by the way. So 3,000 years of unjust torment and torture. And in response to the hideous wrong piled up, remember Prometheus is an immortal, he's a Titan, he's a god, he can't be killed, but he can suffer eternally. In response to the unjust eternal suffering, he alone standing against Jupiter, how will he respond? Will he respond with disdain in turn? No, I pity thee. What ruin will hunt thee undefended through the wide heaven? How will thy soul, cloven to its depth with terror, gape like a hell within? Remember, he's echoing Milton's Paradise Lost. Right? Whatever hell I evade, a still deeper, wider hell opens up. And you'll find the echoes of Paradise Lost littered throughout this poem, by the way, because all of Milton's the Romantics are all emulators of Milton, and they regularly have his Paradise Lost in their minds when they're writing their own verse, because they see emotional truth in it rather than doctrinal truth. They think the resonances are so profound that they regularly appeal to it. And that's why I say, even if you're reading English literature and aren't interested in Milton, you can't read the Romantics without having first read Milton, because they're in conversation there. And you can't read Milton without having read Scripture. And you can't read Milton without having read the classics. So again, no matter how you slice it, there's no way of getting around. You have to read the great books, even if you're with Shelley and the Romantics. You can't go back to nature, as Wordsworth would have it in the Book of Nature. He himself does not follow that same practice. But he says, I speak the curse, I speak in grief, not exultation, for I hate no more. As then ere misery made me wise, the curse once breathed on thee, I would recall. So he once cursed back in response, and now he repents of having ever done so, and he won't repeat rendering evil for evil, because that's what it's all about. Now, this is the Jesus ethic being expressed by Prometheus. So Shelley might call himself an atheist, but this idea of not repaying evil for evil is to be found in Jesus and no one else. The curse once breathed on thee, I would recall, ye mountains whose many-voiced echoes through the mist of cataracts flung the thunder of that spell, ye icy springs stagnant with wrinkling frost, which vibrated to hear me, and then crept shuddering through India, thou serenest air through which the sun walks, burning without beams, and ye swift whirlwinds who on poised wings hung mute and moveless o'er yon hushed abyss, as thunder louder than your own made rock the orbed world. If then my words had power, though I am changed so that aught evil wish is dead within, although no memory be of what is hate, let them not lose it now. For what was that curse? For ye all heard me speak. So, as I say, this is a lyrical drama. There's going to be no action in it whatsoever. It's all consequences of what he says in the very first speech, which is that he unsays the curse that he once said. And he adopts a different intellectual posture now. He is going to move from love and not from hate. And this is consequential, and it will undo the iniquity of responding in kind in the traditional pattern of justice, of an eye for an eye. You know, there's a justice here. For Shelley, the justice is done in a sense, it's schooled by Jesus' example of atoning suffering. That's to some degree what Prometheus represents. It's a very Christian reading to some degree, devoid of Christian theology. But the ethics to some degree is moving in that same direction. But it's got to the point he is so renounced his former cursing, he forgets what he even said. So he asks the mountains what the curse was. First voice, from the mountains thrice 300,000 years, o'er the earthquake's couch we stood, oft as men convulsed with fears, we trembled in our multitude. Second voice, from the springs thunderbolts had parched our water, we had stained with bitter blood, and had run mute, mid shrieks of laughter through a city and a multitude. Third voice, from the air, note that they're coming from all areas of the visible world now. From the whirlwinds, etc., and then go back to the first. But never bowed our snowy crust at the voice of thine unrest. Never such a sound before to the Indian waves we bore. Third voice, by such dreads from earth to heaven, by still realm was never riven. And fourth voice, and we shrank back, for dreams of ruin to frozen caves our flight pursuing made us keep silence. Thus and thus, though silence is a hell to us. They didn't answer the question. They don't want to answer it. The earth, the tongueless caverns of the craggy hills cried, misery! Then the hollow heaven replied, misery, and the ocean's purple waves, climbing the land, howled to the lashing winds, and the pale nations heard it, misery. Prometheus, I heard a sound of voices, not the voice which I gave forth. I asked you for this, you didn't give it to me. I asked you, what did I say? You're not telling me. Mother, Prometheus to the earth. He's a Titan of the earth. Mother, thy sons and thou scorn him, without whose all-enduring will beneath the fierce omnipotence of Jove, both they and thou had vanished, like thin mist unrolled on the morning wind. Know ye not me, the Titan, he who made his agony the barrier to your else all-conquering foe? I've protected you by my actions. I come between you and them. He's the mediator. He's a Christ figure. He's protected them by his defiance of the earth or of the sky god Jupiter. Oh, rock bosom lawns and snow-fed streams, now seen athwart frore vapors deep below, through whose o'ershadowing woods I wandered once with Asia, drinking life from her loved eyes. Why scorns the spirit which informs thee now to commune with me? Me alone who checked, as one who checks a fiend-drawn charioteer, the falsehood and the force of him who reigns supreme, and with the groans of pining slaves fills your dim glens and liquid wildernesses. Why answer ye not still? Brethren, they dare not. They're afraid. Who dares? For I would hear that curse again. Ha! What an awful whisper rises up, to scarce like sound. It tingles through the frame, as lightning tingles, hovering ere it strike. Speak, spirit, from thine inorganic voice. I only know that thou art moving near in love. How cursed I him! How canst thou hear, who knowest not the language of the dead? Thou art a living spirit, speak as they. I dare not speak like life, lest heaven's fell king should hear, and link me to some wheel of pain more torturing than the one whereon I roll. Subtle thou art and good, and though the gods hear not this voice, yet thou art more than God. Being wise and kind, earnestly hearken now. So all of it is a call to, so this is the dramatic plot line. I recant the words that I said. I revoke the sentiment that provoked those words. I have a change of heart. But first of all, what did I actually say? And the dialogue will progress to the point of hearing what he once said, and then he will recant of that and move away from it. And the consequence of that is to dethrone Jupiter. That's the effect of this. So by moving from a different vantage point, a different ethical vantage point of feeling, of love rather than hate, the world gets transformed. So he does posit in love a transformative power. Again, a very Christian emphasis in certain ways. The power of love. But it's associated with feeling here and not with an action by the word. And what art thou, O melancholy voice? I am the earth, thy mother, she within whose stony veins the last fibre of the loftiest tree, whose thin leaves trembled in the frozen air, joy ran, as blood within a living frame, when thou didst from her bosom like a cloud of glory arise, a spirit of keen joy. And at thy voice her pining sons uplifted their prostrate brows from the polluting dust, and our almighty tyrant with fierce dread grew pale, until his thunder chained thee here. Then see those million worlds which burn and roll around us. Their inhabitants beheld my sphered light wane in wide heaven. The sea was lifted by strange tempest, and new fire from earthquake, rifted mountains of bright snow, shook its portentous hair beneath heaven's frown. Lightning and inundation vexed the plains. Blue thistles bloomed in cities. Foodless toads within voluptuous chambers, panting, crawled. When plague had fallen on man and beast and worm, and famine and black blight on herb and tree, and in the corn and vines and meadow grass, teemed ineradicable poisonous weeds draining their growth, for my wan breast was dry with grief, and the thin air, my breath, was stained with the contagion of a mother's hate breathed on her child's destroyer. I heard not thy curse, the which if thou rememberest not, yet my innumerable seas and streams, mountains and caves and winds and yon wide air, and the inarticulate people of the dead preserve a treasured spell. We meditate in secret joy and hope those dreadful words, but dare not speak them. Okay, so she doesn't know, but it's preserved. The curse against the curse is held as a magical power. We treasured that day when you defied the tyrant. You're the champion of the earth. You would not bow the knee. We loved you as the defiant, strong figure who opposed Jupiter. Yes. So you're our guy. But you've adopted the exact same ethics. This is Prometheus' perspective. But I was just like Jupiter. I was just like him by rendering evil for evil. And now I'm going to teach you a better way. That's the progress here. It's an emotional progress. Venerable Mother, all else who live and suffer take from thee some comfort, flowers and fruits and happy sounds and love, though fleeting these may not be mine. But mine own words, I pray, deny me not. They shall be told. Ere Babylon was dust, the Magus, Zoroaster, my dead child, met his own image walking in the garden. That apparition, soul of men, he saw. For know, there are two worlds of life and death. One, that which thou beholdest, but the other is underneath the grave, where do inhabit the shadows of all forms that think and live. Till death unite them, and they part no more, dreams and the light imaginings of men, and all that faith creates or love desires, terrible, strange, sublime, and beauteous shapes. There thou art, and dost hang, a writhing shade mid whirlwind-peopled mountains. All the gods are there, and all the powers of nameless worlds, vast sceptered phantoms, heroes, men, and beasts, and Demogorgon. A tremendous gloom. And he, the supreme tyrant on his throne of burning gold. Son, one of these shall utter the curse which all remember. Call at will thine own ghost, or the ghost of Jupiter, Hades, or Typhon, or what mightier gods from all prolific evil since thy ruin have sprung, and trampled on my prostrate sons. Ask, and they must reply. So the revenge of the supreme may sweep through vacant shades as rainy wind through the abandoned gate of a fallen palace. Passing the buck. Mother, let not aught of that which may be evil pass again my lips, or those of aught resembling me. Phantasm of Jupiter, arise, appear. And now Ione, Panthea appear, and then the phantasm of Jupiter in response to this. So Ione. My wings are folded o'er mine eyes, my wings are crossed over mine eyes, yet through their silver shade appears. It's a bit like the angels in Isaiah, where that cover their eyes. And so. Yet through their silver shade appears, and through their lulling plumes arise a shape, a throng of sounds. May it be no ill to thee, O thou of many wounds, near whom for our sweet sister's sake ever thus we watch and wake. The sound is of whirlwind underground, says Panthea. Panthea is all the gods. Earthquake and fire and mountains cloven. The shape is awful like the sound, clothed in dark purple, star inwoven, a scepter of pale gold. He to stay steps proud o'er the slow cloud his veined hand doth hold. Cruel he looks, but calm and strong, like one who does not suffers wrong. Like one who does not suffers wrong. So he's a tyrant. He suffers no ill, he only deals it out. And that's Jupiter. He suffers not. There's no suffering in Jupiter. There's only action. There's only violence. Never the suffering of violence. Prometheus represents the power of suffering, the transformative power of suffering and of love. Again, Christian themes, but now presented as feelings, as mental states. And the phantasm of Jupiter now speaks. Why have the secret powers of this strange world driven me, a frail and empty phantom, hither on direst storms? What unaccustomed sounds are hovering on my lips, unlike the voice with which our pallid race hold ghastly talk in darkness? And proud sufferer, who art thou? Tremendous image as thou art, must be he whom thou shadowest forth. I am his foe. The Titan, speak the words which I would hear, although no thought inform thy empty voice. And then Mother Earth, listen. And though your echoes must be mute, grey mountains and old woods and haunted springs, prophetic caves and isle surrounding streams, rejoice to hear what yet ye cannot speak. A spirit seizes me and speaks within. It tears me as fire tears a thundercloud. See how he lifts his mighty looks. The heaven darkens above. He speaks, oh, shelter me. I see the curse on gestures, proud and cold, and looks of firm defiance, and calm hate, and such despair as mocks itself with smiles, written as on a scroll. Yet speak, oh, speak. Fiend, I defy thee. With a calm, fixed mind, all that thou canst inflict, I bid thee do. Foul tyrant both of gods and humankind, one only being shalt thou not subdue. Rain then thy plagues upon me. Here, ghastly disease and frenzying fear, and let alternate frost and fire eat into me, and be thine ire lightning and cutting hail and legion forms of furies driving by upon the wounding storms. I do thy worst. Thou art omnipotent o'er all things but thyself. I gave thee power and my own will. Be thy swift mischiefs sent to blast mankind from yon ethereal tower. Let thy malignant spirit move in darkness over those I love. On me and mine I imprecate the utmost torture of thy hate. So he curses himself. An imprecatory curse is an oath taken to curse. There are imprecatory psalms, for instance. And thus devote to sleepless agony this undeclining head while thou must reign on high. A lot like Mont Blanc. You can hear the echoes of Mont Blanc in this as well, right? Heap on my soul this. So these are the words that Prometheus uttered, and his phantasm is now repeating to him. This is what he originally said. Do thy worst, etc., and so forth. But thou who art the God and Lord, O thou who fillest with thy soul this world of woe, to whom all things of earth and heaven do bow in fear and worship, all prevailing foe, I curse thee. Let a sufferer's curse clasp thee, his torturer. like remorse, till thine infinity shall be a robe of envenomed agony, and thine omnipotence a crown of pain, to cling like burning gold round thy dissolving brain. Heap on thy soul, by virtue of this curse, ill deeds, then be thou damned, beholding good, both infinite as is the universe, and thou and thyself torturing solitude, an awful image of calm power, though now thou sittest, let the hour come when thou must appear to be that which thou art internally, and after many a false and fruitless crime, scorn track thy lagging fall through boundless space and time. It's quite the curse. It's a long essay of a curse. Were these my words, O parent? They were thine. Okay, so now he hears the curse. Those were his words. Well, it's quite the curse. I wonder if Jupiter was a little bit flummoxed by what he heard there and said, what, huh? Anyway. They were thine. It doth repent me. Words are quick and vain. Grief for a while is blind. And so was mine. I wish no living thing to suffer pain. So everything that he said there, a response to unjust suffering, a knee-jerk reaction of wishing the same on his adversary, he now repents of and wishes no pain to anyone. Rendering not evil for evil, but rather pouring coals on our adversaries by blessing those who curse us. It's the Jesus ethic. That's what he's demonstrating here, right? Loving your enemies. The earth. Misery, oh misery to me, that Jove at length should vanquish thee. They see a defeat in this. He's withdrawn the curse. They were behind him because he was their champion. He cursed back. He wouldn't bow the knee. Now he repents of that. It looks like from the vantage point of the earth, they don't understand what's just happened. What do you mean you withdraw the curse? You were a legend for not bowing the knee, and now you repent of that? Misery, oh misery to me, says the earth, that Jove at length should vanquish thee. Oh no, the end has come. Wail, howl aloud, land and sea. The earth's rent heart shall answer thee. Howl, spirits of the living and the dead. Your refuge, your defense lies fallen and vanquished. So it's over. Prometheus is finally given in. He's broken. First echo lies, fallen and vanquished. Fallen and vanquished. Fear not, 'tis but some passing spasm. The Titan is unvanquished still. But see, they don't understand the significance of the act that's just happened. The rest of Prometheus Unbound will be a demonstration of the consequences of this act of repentance and revoking the cursing. A shape now comes, stretching on high from his right hand, a serpent cinctured wand. Panthea, 'tis Jove's world-wandering herald, Mercury. And who are those with hydra tresses and iron wings that climb the wind, whom the frowning god represses like vapors, steaming up behind, clanging loud an endless crowd? They are Jove's tempest-walking hounds, whom he gluts with groans and blood, when charioted on sulphurous cloud he bursts heaven's bounds. Are they now led from the thin dead on new pangs to be fed? The Titan looks, as ever, firm, not proud. Remember, he said the problem with Milton's Satan is that he was a megalomaniac. He was proud. It's a moral failure. His Prometheus will have no such moral failures. How do we know that those are moral failures except through Christ's own conduct? But again, he doesn't. It's the thing about Shelley that I find baffling. Ha! I scent life. Let me but look into his eyes. And these are the Furies. The hope of torturing him smells like a heap of corpses to a death bird after battle. Darest thou delay, O herald? Take cheer, hounds of hell. What if the son of Maius soon should make us food and sport? Who can please long the omnipotent? Mercury, back to your towers of iron and gnash beside the streams of hail and wail your foodless teeth. Geryon, arise, and Gorgon, Chimera, and thou, Sphinx, subtlest of fiends who minister to Thebes, heaven's poisoned wine, unnatural love, and more unnatural hate, these shall perform your task. First Fury, oh, mercy, mercy, we die with our desire, drive us not back, crouch then in silence. Now to Prometheus. Awful sufferer, awful, awesome sufferer. To the unwillingly, most unwillingly I come, by the great Father's will driven down, to execute a doom of new revenge. Alas, I pity thee, and hate myself that I can do no more. I from thy sight returning, for a season heaven seems hell. Echoing Milton, Satan. So thy worn form pursues me night and day, smiling reproach. Wise art thou, firm and good, but vainly wouldst stand forth alone in strife against the omnipotent, as yon clear lamps that measure and divide the weary years, from which there is no refuge, long have taught and long must teach. Even now thy torturer arms with the strange might of unimagined pains the powers who scheme slow agonies in hell. And my commission is to lead them here. Or what more subtle, foul or savage fiends people the abyss, and leave them to their task. Be it not so. There is a secret known to thee, and to none else of living things, which may transfer the scepter of wide heaven, the fear of which perplexes the supreme. Clothe it in words, and bid it clasp his throne in intercession. Bend thy soul in prayer, and like a suppliant in some gorgeous fane, let the will kneel within thy haughty heart, for benefits and meek submission tame the fiercest and the mightiest. So you can see even Mercury is sympathetic. I have to serve Jupiter, who's a tyrant, and I serve an unjust master, and I have no choice but to do it, but I don't want to do it. Prometheus, moral instructor throughout, moral example throughout, and I'll submit to you as sort of a Christ figure throughout. Evil minds change good to their own nature. I gave all he has, and in return, he chains me here, years, ages, night and day, whether the soon split my parched skin, or in the moony night the crystal winged snow cling around my hair, whilst my beloved race is trampled down by his thought-executing ministers. Such is the tyrant's recompense. 'Tis just. He who is evil can receive no good. And for a world bestowed or a friend lost, he can feel hate, fear, shame, not gratitude. He but requites me for his own misdeed. Kindness to such is keen reproach. As I say, grace and compassion in response to cursing is like pouring hot coals on the head, and this is how he's treating them, and this he's thinking. This is Christian thinking, which breaks with bitter stings the light sleep of revenge. Submission, thou dost know, I cannot try. For what submission but that fatal word, the death seal of mankind's captivity, like the Sicilian's hair-suspended sword, Damocles. You know about Damocles' sword? It's held up by a thin hair, waiting to fall, which trembles o'er his crown. Would he accept, or could I yield? Which yet I will not yield. Let others flatter crime where it sits throned in brief omnipotence. Secure are they. For justice, when triumphant, will weep down pity, not punishment, on her own wrongs, too much avenged by those who err. I wait, enduring thus the retributive hour, which since we spake is even nearer now. But hark the hellhound's clamor. Fear delay. Behold, heaven lowers under thy Father's frown. Oh, that we might be spared. I to inflict, and thou to suffer. Once more answer me, thou knowest not the period of Jove's power? I know but this, that it must come. Alas, thou canst not count thy years to come of pain. They last while Jove must reign, nor more, nor less do I desire or fear. Yet pause and plunge into eternity. So you'll see that there are certain features here which are characteristic of Shelley, which were also true of Byron, which is a representation of the protagonist as good-hearted and unwilling to trade in evil for evil, and willing to suffer but not to submit, a refusal to submit or move away from the principle of his conduct, rooted in the feeling of love and compassion. In the case of both men, now both of them are ascribed to be part of the Satanic school, and that's because again they see Milton's Satan as an example of principled suffering against wrongdoing, and they present God in Milton's Paradise Lost as the chief villain because he's angry and he's punishing. I think it's a very bizarre reading of Paradise Lost. But if you understand feeling to be the ultimate reality being depicted through language, and that you sort of orientate the whole narrative around feeling, then it starts to make sense within that paradigm. Anyway, perchance no thought can count them, yet they pass. If thou mightest dwell among the gods the while lapped in voluptuous joy, I would not quit this bleak ravine, these unrepentant pains. Alas, I wonder at, yet pity thee. Pity the self-despising slaves of heaven, not me, within whose mind sits peace serene as light in the sun throned. How vain is talk. Call up thy fiends. Okay, so now the fiends are going to come forth. I find the whole narrative a little bit repetitive, and it doesn't move anywhere. As I say, and it can't move anywhere because there's no actual movement. It's an internal dramatic, I won't say it's a monologue, but it's a lyrical drama. It's a lyrical drama of internal processes. And the internal processes are basically only two. It's love and it's hate. That's about it. And the motivation for one is the antithesis of the other, and he's promoting love. And again, it's in terms of blessing and cursing. And one is not willing to trade in the actions of the other. So let me move over that and go to Act 2. Oops, is this going to do it? Oh, that wasn't any good. That just went to the one before. Index? Oop. Oh no. What did I do? There we go. Act 2. Now we're in the lovely vale in the Indian Caucasus. Asia is alone here. Actually, I don't even want to bother with that. Let me come just to Act 4 because I've got 10 minutes left. We'll move towards the conclusion of this lyrical drama. As you can see, it goes on an extraordinary length of time for an internal drama, and I think as a result, I tried to read it as well as I could, and you can see that there is actually some beauteous images here reflecting the images that would be derived from poetry and Christian thought and classical thought, and images and so forth that are pulled forth to marshal to sort of people the landscape of hatred and of love, and present them in such a fashion. But after a while, I think it gets tedious. And it's partly because the action never moves on, but that, again, the action doesn't move on because it's not about action. It's about having the right feelings. And once he renounces evil at the beginning of the play and renounces the curse that he once uttered, it's a sort of an inevitable glacial change that undoes Jupiter. It is the undoing of Jupiter, not by using his means, his unjust means of cursing, but rather with a different and contradictory ethics. Chorus, semi-chorus, voice, panthea, chorus of spirits. Spirits and hours, spirits, semi-chorus 1 and 2. Panthea. Let's come back here. Okay, we'll pick it up. Sun, the moon, the earth. Okay. The earth. It interpenetrates my granite mass, through tangled roots and trodden clay doth pass into the utmost leaves and delicatest flowers. Upon the winds, among the clouds 'tis spread. It wakes a life in the forgotten dead. They breathe a spirit up from their obscurest bowers, and like a storm bursting its cloudy prison with thunder and with whirlwind has arisen out of the lampless caves of unimagined being, with earthquake, shock, and swiftness making shiver thoughts, stagnant chaos, unremoved forever, till hate and fear and pain, light vanquished, shadows fleeing, leave man who was a many-sided mirror which could distort to many a shape of error this true fair world of things, a sea reflecting love, which over all his kind, as the sun's heaven gliding o'er ocean, smooth, serene, and even, darting from starry depths, radiance and life doth move, leave man even as a leprous child is left, who follows a sick beast to some warm cleft of rocks, through which the might of healing springs is poured. Then when it wanders home with rosy smile, unconscious in its mother fears, while it is a spirit, then weeps on her child restored. Man, oh, not men, a chain of linked thought of love and might to be divided not, compelling the elements with adamantine stress, as the sun rules even with a tyrant's gaze, the unquiet republic of the maze of planets, struggling fierce towards heaven's free wilderness. Man, one harmonious soul of many a soul, whose nature is its own divine control, where all things flow to all as rivers to the sea, familiar acts are beautiful through love. Labor and pain and grief in life's green grove, sport like tame beasts, none knew how gentle they could be. His will with all mean passions, bad delights, and selfish cares, its trembling satellites, a spirit ill to guide, but mighty to obey, is a tempest-winged ship whose helm love rules. Notice all an encomium to love now, as a consequence of Prometheus's actions. Through waves which dare not overwhelm, forcing life's wilder shores to its own sovereign sway, all things confess his strength. Through the cold mass of marble and of color his dreams pass, bright threads whence mothers weave the orbs, robes their children wear, language is a perpetual Orphic song which rules with daedal harmony a throng of thoughts and forms which else senseless and shapeless were. The lightning is his slave, heaven's utmost deep gives up her stars, and like a flock of sheep they pass before his eye, are numbered and roll on. The tempest is his steed, he strides the air, and the abyss shouts from her depth laid bare. Heaven, hast thou secrets? Man unveils me, I have none. Shadow of white death passes. It's just so long-winded. It's just so long-winded. Listen to the sense. There's a sense of words upon mine ear, a universal sound like words. O list, listen. Thou earth, calm empire of a happy soul, sphere of divinest shapes and harmonies, beautiful orb, gathering as thou dost roll, the love which paves thy path along the skies. I hear, I am as a drop of dew that dies. Thou moon which gazest on the nightly earth with wonder as it gazes upon thee, whilst each to men and beasts and the swift birth of birds is beauty, love, calm, harmony. I hear, I am a leaf shaken by thee. Ye kings of suns and stars, demons and gods, ethereal dominations who possess Elysian, windless, fortunate abodes beyond heaven's constellated wilderness, a voice from above. Our great republic hears, we are blessed and bless. Ye happy dead, whose beams of brightest verse are clouds to hide, not colors to portray, whether your nature is that universe which once ye saw and suffered, a voice from beneath, or as they whom we have left we change and pass away. Ye elemental genii who have homes from man's high mind even to the central stone of sullen lead, from heaven's star-fretted domes to the dull weed some sea worm battens on. A confused voice, we hear thy words waken oblivion. Okay. All speak, thy strong words may never pass away. Hopefully they will end, however. This is the day. Okay, so here's the conclusion. This is the day which down the void abysm at the earth-born spell yawns for heaven's despotism. And conquest is dragged captive through the deep. Remember, again, this is echoing scripture. Captivity is taken captive. Love from its awful throne of patient power in the wise heart, from the last giddy hour of dread endurance, from the slippery, steep, and narrow verge of crag-like agony, springs and folds over the world its healing wings. Gentleness, virtue, wisdom, and endurance, these are the seals of that most firm assurance which bars the pit over destruction's strength. And if, with infirm hand, eternity, mother of many acts and hours, should free the serpent that would clasp her with its length, these are the spells by which to reassert an empire over the entangled doom. To suffer woes which hope thinks infinite, to forgive wrongs darker than death or night, to defy power which seems omnipotent, to love and bear, to hope till hope creates from its own wreck the thing it contemplates, neither to change, nor falter, nor repent. This, like thy glory, Titan, is to be good, great, and joyous, beautiful and free. This is alone life, joy, empire, and victory. Okay, so what we get is the sort of deification of Prometheus then as the legitimate god, unlike the illegitimate Jupiter, who is motivated by power to inflict cruel suffering on his opponents who dare defy him. Prometheus's ethic is that of patient suffering, rendering good for evil, and by so enduring and staying principled in his path of blessing and not cursing, overcomes it and is deified through his actions. Again, I say what I said from the beginning, it seems to me very much informed by Christian theology.